Hello there everybody, how is it going and how have you been? I am EuclideanSqd, and we're back here in Duel Links to check out the brand new unlock event for the new character Sartorius. Now if you're not familiar with this character, it's kind of okay. He was the main antagonist from the second season of the Yu-Gi-Oh! GX anime. Kind of bland as a character, but he did have a very interesting deck full of very interesting cards. I can totally understand why some people won't be interested in those, but we'll be going over those cards and the whole details of the event after we take a look at the farming deck that we're going to be using. Now, the original recipe was created by someone who goes by the username of Taki, T-A-K-I, over on gamea. I have included a link to both the main page on gamea for this event, as well as to the image that Taki uploaded of their deck recipe. And to be honest, it was actually pretty cheap to begin with, but I went ahead and made it a little bit cheaper and kind of disconnected it from the skill that Taki was using to make it viable. So, looking at this deck, you're noticing a lot of Cloudians, and it does kind of rely on the main strategy of the old Cloudian farming decks that we're quite familiar with. However, it has been hybridized with another older farming strategy, so still going to be covering the deck, but the main idea is that you rely on your Cloudians to just sit there and block attacks, as well as the field spell Sanctuary in the Sky to nullify battle damage. Once you get a Sanctuary in the Sky on the field, Sartorius pretty much can't do anything. Well, once you get a Sanctuary in the Sky and a Cloudian on the field, then Sartorius can't do anything. Now, honestly, he does have one card that can ruin this. Excuse me. He does have one potential card that he could use to disrupt your strategy, but I've actually never seen him use it. So I don't know if his AI is just weird about when it wants to use it, or if he just hasn't drawn it, or what. But this deck has basically gotten a 100% win rate for me so far. And of course, now that I say that, it means I'm probably going to lose, but moving on. But yeah, you rely on the Cloudians to sit and absorb attacks. And then at the end of the duel, you summon Neoparshoth, the Sky Paladin, and he gets the usual big stat buff because of the difference in life points, which, thanks to Golden Ladybugs, is ideally pretty high. But that's where the strategy actually ends, or the Cloudian strategy actually ends. Because Sartorius' deck actually throws a little bit of a wrinkle in the fact that all of his monsters are also Fairy type, which means that your own Sanctuary in the Sky field spell is actually going to be keeping you from hurting Sartorius too. Now, that does seem bad, and it is, but there are some simple ways to work around it. So, in the original recipe, I believe the user was using the Winged Dragon of Ra. If you do have Ra, and you do decide to use it over Neoparshoth, all you have to do is set a second Sanctuary in the Sky, and that'll just turn the effect off, and then you can just attack him with Ra and do all your damage. However, if you don't have Ra, and you're using Neoparshoth, that isn't going to work, because Parshoth only gains those extra points when Sanctuary in the Sky is faced upon the field. So what you're going to have to do instead is rely on an older farming strategy that consists of Gravekeeper's Vassal, Secret Pass to the Treasures, and Union Attack. So, Secret Pass to the Treasures says that you select one face-up monster with an attack equal to 1,000 points or less on your side of the field, and it gets to attack directly this turn. Vassal only has 700 attack, so you use Secret Pass on him, and then you activate your Union attacks, which basically gives Vassal, trying to figure out how to phrase this. Actually, I'll just read it. Target one face-up monster you control, add up the total attack of all other face-up attack position monsters you currently control, then during the battle phase of this turn only, that monster gains that much attack. However, it cannot inflict battle damage. So, basically, simple math. If Parshoth and or Ra has 7,000 attack and you use Union attack, Vassal gains 7,000 attack. Now you're probably thinking, but Union attack also keeps you from doing battle damage. Well, that's where Vassal himself actually comes in, as his effect says that any battle damage this card inflicts to your opponent is treated as effect damage instead. So that totally skirts around the whole no dealing damage with Union attack, and ideally will let you do over 10,000 points of damage, as well as get an extra 1,000 points for winning by only dealing effect damage. Now, and then additionally, like I mentioned, golden ladybugs to regenerate life points, and some planet pathfinders to help you search out the sanctuary in the skies. Now, here's a little bit of the bad news. These super rare... I forgot. And you need double summon so that you can summon both Neo-Parshoth and Gravekeeper's Vassal in the last turn. Now, looking at this deck, I already have modified it a little bit. The original recipe had Ra instead of Parshoth, as I mentioned, but it also did not have the golden ladybugs. Instead, it had a third planet pathfinder as well as a trap card called Legacy of Yatagarasu. That one's not that important. All that it does is let you draw a card. You could easily replace that with the Jar of Greed if you wanted. Part of why I swapped out for golden ladybug is that the way that the original deck was set up, the only way you could gain life points was via a particular duelist skill known as Fairy's Smile. And the way that Fairy's Smile works is that whenever you draw a fairy type monster, you can reveal it to your opponent and you gain 1,000 life points. Now, that sounds all well and good. The problem, however, is that only Ishizu Ishtar or Jesse Anderson can actually get Fairy Smile. And while I'm not sure if Ishizu can get it by level up or not, Jesse can only get it as a drop from Legendary Duelist or PvP Arena. So, if Ishizu can get it by level up, which I don't know if she can, I forgot to check that, that would be the only character you could use to make the deck work. So basically, to free it from a very restrictive skill, I kind of swapped some cards around and put in some golden ladybugs for, just more standardized, easier to do life point healing, I guess. And when it comes to rarer cards, you technically don't need double summon if you can find a way to summon Neo-Parshoth before the last turn of the duel. You definitely want to save Vassal until the end of the duel, because otherwise Sartorius will just destroy it. And you could technically get away with just one Union attack. Just because of the way it works, if Neo-Parshoth gets over 10,000 attack points, you only need to activate one for Vassal to be able to do that much damage. But the main reason that there are two is that you don't know when your ladybugs are going to show up, and if they show up later in the duel, Parshoth might not get strong enough for one Union attack to do over 10,000 damage. It might only get to the 4,000 to 6,000 range, and you'd still get points for doing over 5,000 damage, just not enough, or not as many points as if you did over 10,000 damage. But yeah, that's basically the deck. It's just a nice little hybrid of two different two older farming strategies. So with that, let's go ahead and take a look at Sartorius himself. He's very, very creepy looking. But let's go ahead and take a look at the reward cards. And unfortunately, most of these are not that great. Well, all of his normals, and I believe most if not all of his rares are not that fantastic. So to start off, we have Dokuroyaba, level 3 Fire Fiend, 1000 attack, 400 defense, normal monster, not good. Then we have Hibikimi, level 4 Earth Warrior, 1450 attack, 1000 defense, also not that good. So normals, complete trash. His rare is Spirit of the Harp, a level 4 Light Fairy with 800 attack and 2000 defense, so better. I've noticed that Konami seems to be adding one monster with a lot of defense to most of the newer event duelists, so that's something. Could be better, obviously, but could be worse. And then we actually get to one of the monsters that was actually part of the archetype he used. Arcana Force 6, the Lovers. This is a level 4 Light Fairy with 1600 attack and defense, and very interesting effect. When this card is summoned, you toss a coin. If it's heads, this card can be treated as 2 tributes for the tribute summon of an Arcana Force monster, and if tails, you cannot tribute summon Arcana Force monsters. So if that sounds a bit weird, basically all of the Arcana Force monsters, and I think I mentioned this, I'm not sure, but they are all based on different tarot cards, and when it comes to reading tarot cards, whether the card is right side up or upside down changes the meaning of the card. And generally speaking, when the card is upside down, it has a more negative connotation to it. Now, the Arcana Force monsters all personify this in the form of coin flips, in that heads will generally be an effect that is very beneficial to you, while tails is going to be a very bad effect for you. So it is a little bit of a game of luck. And it's actually kind of neat when you are using Sartorius and you use an Arcana Force monster's effect, a different animation plays. Instead of a coin getting flipped, the card actually spins and will land either face up or heads up or heads down. So, yeah, that makes sense. Right side up, upside down. There you go. So, yeah, very neat little attention to detail. Also reminiscent of the anime where whenever he would summon one, its card would appear and it would spin and then would land either right side up or upside down, but moving on. And then the last rare is Empress Judge, a level 6 Earth Warrior Fusion with 2100 attack, 1700 defense. Requires Queen's Double and Hibikimi. So one of its fusion materials is another drop. Don't know where you get Queen's Double, but more to the point, I don't know why he has this. It's actually kind of decent in terms of stats for a fusion monster, but again, I don't know where you get Queen's Double, so I don't know if you can use it. He doesn't give it to you, but so moving on. Now we get to the super rares. So the first one we hit is Arcana Force 14 Temperance. This is a level 6 light fairy with 2400 attack and defense. This one actually has an additional effect on top of the whole heads tails thing. During damage calculation in either player's turn, you can discard this card and you take no battle damage from that battle. When this card is summoned, you can toss a coin and apply this effect. The effect will last while this card remains face up on the field. If you get heads, you have all battle damage you take. However, if you get tails, you have all battle damage your opponent takes. So again, heads is good for you, tails is bad for you. Next up, we have Arcana Force 3, the Empress, a level 4 light fairy, 1300 attack and defense. When this card is summoned, you toss a coin. In case you haven't noticed, this is a theme among all the Arcana Force monsters. Heads, each time your opponent normal summons or sets a monster, you can special summon one Arcana Force monster from your hand. This is actually very powerful because there is no level restriction, so you could easily just go ahead and summon, like, Temperance, for example. Just 3 in response to your opponent summoning anything. Or normal summoner set, not a special summon, but anyway. However, if you get tails with the Empress, every time your opponent normal summons or sets a monster, you have to send a card from your hand to the graveyard. So be mindful, especially considering that Empress does not have that much in the way of stats, so you are taking a little bit of a gamble and hoping that you get the good effect so that you can bring out your big Arcana Force before you lose her. The next super rare is Arcana Force 18, the Moon. This is a level 7 light fairy effect, or a light fairy monster with 2800 attack and defense. When this card is summoned, you toss a coin. Heads, during your standby phase, you can special summon one Moon token, which is a level 1 light fairy with no attack and defense. However, if you get tails, during each of your end phases, you select one monster you control and give control of it to your opponent. And yes, if the Moon is your only monster, you have to give the Moon to your opponent. So, yeah, very, very detrimental effect there. And then the final super rare is Arcana Force 1, the Magician, a level 4 light fairy with 1100 attack and defense. When this card is summoned, toss a coin. Heads, when a spell card is activated, this card's attack becomes double its original attack until the end phase of that turn. Or tails, when a spell card is activated, your opponent gains 500 life points. So, actually not that bad of a detrimental effect. I mean, it kind of sucks that your opponent would be healing off of any spell cards that you activate, but I mean, it could be worse. It could have been something, you know, like when a spell card is activated, this card's attack and defense becomes 0, or something weird like that. And then we get to his ultra rare, which is a very powerful monster, actually. Arcana Force EX, the Light Ruler. Level 10 Light Fairy, 4,000 attack and defense. However, it cannot be normal summoned or set. It must be special summoned from your hand by sending 3 monsters you control to the graveyard, and cannot be special summoned by other ways. No, I want to make a note here, really quick, that it just says sending 3 monsters you control to the graveyard. So I believe that means that you can summon it by sending things that say they otherwise cannot be tributed, because you're not technically tributing them, you're just sending them. So a little bit of a sneaky workaround, but also nice is that they don't have to be Arcana Force monsters. So if you want to use this thing, but you don't want to deal with the other ones, you can still absolutely use it that way. And, much like all the others, when this card is special summoned, you toss a coin, and this card gains the appropriate effect. Heads, when this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, you can target 1 card in your graveyard and add that target to your hand. Or tails, during either player's turn, when a spell, trap card, or monster effect that targets this card is activated, this card loses exactly 1,000 attack, and you negate the activation, and if you do, destroy it. So this is actually the rare case of both effects are very good for you. I would say that Tails is slightly worse than it appears, simply because you don't have any control over whether or not its effect activates. So, say for example your opponent activates something, well, actually no, because you'd probably want to negate anything your opponent does. But it does not specify that it has to be an opponent's card that targets this thing. So if you try to use your own spell or traps or monster effects on the Light Ruler, it will negate and destroy them and then make itself weaker in response. So you do have to play a little bit more cautiously if it does happen to come up Tails, but otherwise pretty strong card. So it's either immune to card effects or recovers stuff from your graveyard every time it destroys something in battle. So that's all of the loot cards. He probably has a few more Arcana Force monsters in his level up set, if I had to guess. I haven't actually looked yet. I've purposely been avoiding it. But let's just go ahead and get into a farming duel, because it's already 17 minutes in and somehow I always manage to waste time rambling. Now, like I think I mentioned, Sartorius is actually not all that difficult to duel against. And in fact, I think I've pretty much got him locked down already. Let's go ahead and summon an Acid Cloud. Activate Sanctuary in the Sky. Here we go. Yeah. Like I mentioned, he has no spell and trap destruction, so he cannot get rid of your Sanctuary in the Sky. There's the effect that I mentioned. Yeah, so he cannot get rid of Sanctuary in the Sky once you play it. And I'm actually kind of miffed that I just drew one, because I was hoping to use my 2 Planet Pathfinders, but anyway. The only card that you really have to worry about if you are using this deck, it's a spell card that he has. I believe he only has 1 copy of it, and it's called like Sword of Suit X, or 10, I guess technically, like Roman numeral 10. At least I think it's called Sword of Suit. It's based on another one of the tarot cards. I think this one's a minor arcana. But anyway, the point is that when he plays that spell card, he flips a coin. If it's heads, he destroys all monsters you control, but if it's tails, he destroys all monsters he controls. And I think it's specifically that second effect that kind of screws with his AI, in that... I just hit the desk, sorry. In that I don't think it will ever want to activate Sword of Suit if he has multiple monsters that he could lose. Either that, or he's just never drawn it early enough in the duel for me to actually see him use it. I will cover that trap card in a moment. But, yeah, like even though he has this, I've never seen him use it against me. And, I mean, granted, he's never completely drawn out his deck, so it is entirely possible, even, however improbable, that he's just never drawn Sword of Suit, but I don't know. So, my best guess is that his AI probably doesn't want to do it when he has 3 monsters in play, just because it sees it as, well, if I get this wrong, I'm going to take a lot of direct attacks. But I honestly can't tell you. He has the card, but I've never seen him use it. I don't know what circumstances he uses it in, but if you use this deck, it seems like 99% of the time you should be absolutely fine. So, let's stop focusing on that and move on. Let's go ahead and just toss a Planet Pathfinder. So that trap card that he's activated in response to his Empress getting the Tails effect is something called Reversal of Fate. You simply select one Arcana Force monster you control, and that monster's effect is now treated as the opposite one of whatever the coin toss was. So, Empress came up with Tails, however he used Reversal of Fate to make it so that she had the Heads effect instead. Simple enough. Okay, well, here comes the Light Ruler, so I'll get the cursor out of the way so you can see the summoning animation. It's actually kind of cool. And I think I keep kind of clicking my lips, I'm sorry about that. Or clicking my tongue. But anyway. Very cool looking monster, very sort of like Eldritch Machine sort of thing. And I was actually just about to cover an Arcana Force monster that the AI has that I don't know if we can get. And it's actually sitting right on top of his graveyard. This is Arcana Force 4, the Emperor. A level 4 light fairy with 1400 attack and defense. Oh god. I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm burping a lot, but as usual, when this card is summoned, you toss a coin. If it's heads, all Arcana Force monsters you control gain 500 attack. But if it's tails, all Arcana Force monsters you control lose 500 attack. So, again, whole thing of could be good, could be bad. And this field spell is actually something that you do need to watch out for if you want to duel him normally. This is Light Barrier. And I don't think I'm going to get to over 10. I might. Anyway. This field spell, during your standby phase, you toss a coin. If the result is tails, the following effect is negated until your next standby phase. So effectively, if you get heads, you keep getting this effect. If you get tails, it turns off. When you summon an Arcana Force monster, you get to choose which effect to apply without tossing your coin. And if an Arcana Force monster destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you gain life points equal to the destroyed monster's original attack. So not only does he get to pick effects, like he did with the Emperor, where he just picked heads, anytime it destroys something of yours, he recovers life points. So again, my advice is that if you are dueling him normally and he plays Light Barrier, try to get rid of it, because the AI will always pick better effects so long as it can use the effect. Now, that said, Light Barrier does not let you control its own coin toss, so it is also entirely plausible that it may, or that he may get a tails and then you don't have to worry about it for a turn. But honestly, it's better to just get rid of it. And that actually said, I think he has 2 copies of Light Barrier. So, you know. Yeah, otherwise, again, once you get a Euclidean and a Sanctuary in the sky, you should pretty much be set. Very straightforward duel. Let's see here. So I'm going to get to 7,500 this turn. I'm going to go ahead and set my other Union attack. That was double summon. Okay. Let's see. So next draw 85, next draw 95. So yeah, this is a situation where it is good to have 2 Union attacks, because my Neo Parshoth is only going to gain 5,500 attack points. And that sounds like a lot, but that's only going to get it to 78. And I don't think 1 Union attack will let Vassal get strong enough to deal over 10,000 by himself. Is that the first time it landed heads up? Or face up? No, it did it last turn. Okay. Alright. Well, time to end this duel. It's probably the fastest example of a farming duel I've ever done. Let's go ahead and normal summon. Let's go ahead and just tribute the acid clouds. Leave Altus on the field just for the extra attack points. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, no, she got the Tails effect. That's right, never mind. For some reason I thought that this Empress had heads, and it tried to force a special summon, which just made him discard a card because his monster zones are full, but it didn't. So anyway, you tribute summon Parshoth, use double summon, play Vassal. You don't technically have to use Secret Pass first, because Union Attack won't actually boost Vassal's power until the battle phase starts. But I kind of do anyway, just out of habit. And I wonder if I would have gotten enough. So let's see. 78 plus 13 is 88, 92. I would have been to 9,900 with just one Union Attack. So shows you how close you can get with just 2 Ladybugs. But anyway, let's go ahead, go to battle phase, and boom. 18,900 effect damage, Sartorius is beaten. Let's see if I get anything good. Oh, and I'm sorry if I keep repeating myself. It's like, at this point it's like 2:30 in the morning. I can't remember if I said this. You don't need Hassleberry. Again, I purposely designed this deck to be used without the Fairy's Smile skill, specifically by just any duelist. I just happen to be using Hassleberry because he had empty deck slots for me to build the deck in. So, there you go. Alright. Now, as you can see, Prophetic Sartorius has appeared in Duel World. Now, Prophetic Sartorius is kind of like this event's version of a level 50 duel. However, there are some special conditions around him. So, first off, you might have noticed that there's this little thing down here. That's actually a meter. And basically, it fills up as you just participate in other duels. So, against the standard NPCs, other legendary duelists, even dueling Sartorius at the gate will fill it up. And once it maxes out is when Prophetic Sartorius appears, which is actually something I really, really like, because it takes away a little bit of an element of randomness. You know when he's going to show up. You can kind of, if you really want to min-max, you can kind of stop dueling the standard duelists in batches and just duel them one at a time until he shows up, so that you can, get as as much possible meter out of him as you can, if that's actually a plausible sentence. Again, I'm tired. Now, Prophetic Sartorius can be dueled at either level 20 or 40. If you duel him at level 40, he does have a different deck than the regular Sartorius does, so this farming strategy probably won't work again. However, you do get a big bonus to your duel assessment just for beating Prophetic Sartorius. I think it's like 2,000 points or something like that. And, at least according to what Konami said when they, unlocked this part of the event, is that every time you beat Prophetic Sartorius, your odds of getting a rainbow pack when dueling regular Sartorius goes up. And just in case anybody isn't quite sure what that means, the rainbow packs are the ones that drop when you beat a duelist and you look at all the card drops, or the after duel drops, like the chests and the card packs and stuff. The rainbow packs are the ones that are going to give you the super rares and the ultra rares. So, in more direct terms, the more you beat Prophetic Sartorius, the more likely you are to get super rares and ultra rares from the regular one. And that, again, is something I find really cool. I like that by playing more in the event, the odds of getting the good stuff out of the event go up. Now, unfortunately, I think that came at the cost of them starting at a low drop rate initially. At least, it's RNG. It's not exactly easy to tell sometimes. But that is basically how it works. I'm just going to go ahead and smack Prophetic Sartorius around right now. Oh, you actually get 4,000 if you beat him at level 40. I'm just going to go back to my good alien deck. Prophetic Sartorius has all the same reward cards that the regular one does, so it's basically another free duel against him. However, you are put in a new background, or a special duel environment, I guess. And I just remembered. Prophetic Sartorius has a special duel skill called Predestination. And basically, all that does is make it so that all of his Arcana Force monsters get the heads effect. Doesn't need Light Barrier, just every single one lands heads up, or gets heads. So you'd think that would make him pretty difficult to duel against, and it kind of does. But this alien deck is so good that it kind of just crushes him anyway. So there's an Emperor. Emperor is going to forcefully put itself in right side up, so it gets 500 extra attack points. However, I am going to go ahead and just dump 6 A counters on it to make it lose 1800 attack points and destroy it. Oh, and then he's just going to go ahead and use Temperance to block battle damage. Okay. Well, guess what, Sartorius? I still win because I can use my other recombination device. Give Warrior 2 counters from Gray. I'm not going to be showing this, the contents of this deck off. I'm just doing this really quick just to show you. Use the other recombination device to search out an Overlord. Special summon said Overlord. Now let's go ahead and set Gray just in case. And no more Temperances. You lose. Yeah, so that's kind of the thing, is just any good deck should be able to deal with Prophetic Sartorius, I feel. I don't think I've ever really had trouble with him at all. But it's also entirely possible that I just keep getting lucky. So I just wanted to mention that really quick, just because I don't really cover like the level 50s or the level 60s, just because they're generally just harder and they appear so randomly that it doesn't seem worth it, because you probably only duel them maybe like once a day for the remainder of the event or whatever. But this one's interesting just because you can actually duel him multiple times a day, and he boosts the drop rate, so I just wanted to bring that up. Let's go ahead and look at the score rewards for the event. So you get the usual gems and crystals and stuff, and this is actually something that I don't like about this event, is that several of the card rewards are going to be the normals and the rares that are just not good. And more to the point is that they're the normals and the rares. They're like the easiest stuff to get off of dueling him. So I don't know why Konami felt the need to give you a guaranteed copy of some of these, but they're not great. But anyway, at 230,000 you get 40 extra tarot cards, which are the name for this event's token. At 390,000 you unlock Sartorius. Let's see. Well, okay, again, Spirit of the Harp is kind of good because of the 2,000 defense, but it's also like you're going to get so many copies of that anyway. At 1 million points you get these card sleeves. At 1.3 million you get a copy of Arcana Force 14, Temperance. At 1.8 million you get the game mat. At 2.5 million you get another copy of Arcana Force EX, the Light Ruler, which is actually something very nice, so you only ever have to worry about Sartorius dropping 1 if you want 3 copies. But even then, this is probably a card you don't want more than 1 copy in your deck. And then other than that, at 3.3 million you get the icon for the event, and at 4.2 you get the title for finishing the event entirely. I will get to Sartorius in just a moment, but this is actually something I want to bring up. When you click on the Card Trader EX right now, you have your choice between Yubel, the Ultimate Nightmare, and Consumed by Light, Sartorius Emerges. This is because the EX jewels that you could have gotten from the Yubel event that ended like maybe a week ago, they still have not quite expired yet. So this is kind of what Konami I guess, was originally planning when they did the whole, like, EX gems are now separated by event sort of thing, so that you couldn't just use your leftover EX jewels from Ubel to buy stuff for Sartorius. You have to use the ones that you get from the Sartorius event for Sartorius' cards. And this is interesting. There is a new item here. This is Mastery of Destiny. You can only use this item when you duel against Prophetic Sartorius. And it's actually kind of funny when you use it, because it basically inverts his predestination ability. So instead of always getting heads, all of his Arcana Force monsters always get tails. So if you are struggling against Prophetic Sartorius and you want to beat him at least once or twice just to boost the Rainbow Pack drop rate, you can go ahead and spend some EX jewels to get these things and just kind of screw them over. But again, I don't think it's particularly necessary. Any decently designed deck should be able to do it. You know, just good spell trap destruction, good monster blockage, you know, that sort of stuff. But among the card trader, you cannot buy a copy of the Light Ruler, but you can get the Magician, the Moon, the Empress, some of his rares, and one of his normals. But some of these are interesting. So, for example, Herald of Purple Light was a card that you could only get during the last, I think it was Superb Tea event, and that was like months and months ago. So if you missed that event, or if you need an extra copy of the card like I do, you can absolutely buy one here. I believe Diana the Light Spirit was available in the DD Tower Light Dimension event, I want to say. I don't remember where Photon Booster and Constellar Belt come from. They might have been from DD Tower Light Dimension as well, but nice and fast recap. So that's the deck icon. I did not want to click on that. Well, there you go. If you pause the video at just the right time, you can absolutely check out the deck recipe for my aliens. It's not nearly as free to play as my farming decks, and I do that just because it makes auto-dueling a lot faster. So let's go ahead and check out Sartorius. As usual, his starting deck is probably going to be trash. Yep. Well, you do get 2 copies of this Cup of Ace, which is kind of interesting. Spell card that lets you toss a coin. If it's heads, you draw 2 cards. If it's tails, your opponent draws 2 cards. But otherwise, just, again, kind of garbagey monsters. And then his Ace monster, Arcana Force EX. So, yep, 1 copy guaranteed just by unlocking him, and then you get another one towards the end of the event. So, that's probably all that you need. Let's see, at level 3 you get a copy of his Reversal of Fate Trap. Very nice. Level 4 you get the Reversal of Fate skill, which says, select 1 Arcana Force monster you control. That monster's effect is now treated as the opposite coin toss result. This skill can be used twice per duel. Okay, so... Ooh. I'm sorry, my throat keeps drying out. Hold on, just a second. Ugh. Here we go. It's a little bit better. Water, always nice. So that's kind of cool. Basically lets you condense reversal of, I'm guessing 2 Reversal of Fates into your skill. So, you don't have to worry about, or you don't have to rely on drawing the trap card to be able to change your Arcana Force monster's effects. You can just go ahead and do it. Very nice. Level 7 you get a copy of the Emperor. At level 10 you get a Light Barrier. I figured you'd get this somehow or another. Level 11 you get another Emperor. Level 13 you get Draw Sense Light. That makes sense. At level 14 you get Arcana Call. This is a regular trap card. Select 1 Arcana Force monster you control. Remove from play 1 Arcana Force monster from either player's graveyard. Until the end phase, the select monster's effect becomes the removed monster's effect for the same coin toss result. So, long effect, but basically, say my Arcana Force Empress has the heads effect. If I use Arcana Call and banish an Emperor, Empress then gains Emperor's heads effect, which says that all Arcana Force monsters gain 500 attack. Note that does remove the Arcana Force's original effect, and again, in many cases, it will not save you from a Tails effect because all their Tails effects are going to be bad, but can be kind of fun to use. This is another trap card that I think the level 40 Sartorius can have, so also watch out for that if you are dueling him regularly. Level 16, you get another Reversal of Fate trap card. Level 18, you get another Arcana Call. Level 20, you get Light Barrier, which, at the beginning of your first turn, Light Barrier is set on your field zone. Okay. I see a lot of his skills are very much designed to try and help you with the Arcana Force monsters. Level 23, you get Arcana Force 7, the Chariot. Level 4, Light Fairy, 1700 attack and defense. When this card is summoned, toss a coin. Heads, if this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can special summon that monster to your side of the field. Or tails, your opponent gains control of this card. Arcana Force, man. They're something. Level 25, you get another Arcana Call. Level 30, you get your third Reversal of Fate. Level 33, you get another Emperor. Level 35, you get a Chariot. 38 gets you a Light Barrier. 40 gets you a Chariot. And then finally at 45, you get... Okay, I was not expecting this. Fiend Comedian. Toss a coin and call it. If you call it right, all your opponent's cards in the graveyard are removed from play immediately. If you call it wrong, send a number of cards equal to the cards in your opponent's graveyard from your deck to your graveyard. Very, very dangerous trap card. Because ideally you'd want to use it when your opponent has a lot of stuff in their grave. But it could easily come back to bite you if you get your coin toss wrong. Also, sorry if I peeked the mic there just then by saying your. It came out louder than I was expecting. But anyway. So that's all of his level up rewards. Not quite as many monsters as I was expecting, but... Or a variety of monsters, I guess, than I was expecting, but... let's go ahead and check out his skills. So first off, we have Right Side Up. When you toss a coin for an Arcana Force monster's effect, the result will always be heads. Okay, so that's basically the predestination skill. I don't know why they just didn't use Right Side Up for Prophetic Sartorius, but okay. That's going to be a pain in the butt skill. Probably also the best one for Arcana Force monsters. I do like that they did specify that it's for Arcana Force monsters only. It's not just all coin flips, because that could have easily gotten out of control. Then we get Master of Destiny. When you toss a coin, the result will always be heads for the first 3 coin tosses. Okay, that's interesting. This skill will only activate if you begin the duel with a deck that has 5 or more cards with different names that require coin tosses. Okay, so... kind of like, what is it? Heavy Starter, I think? Well... because Heavy Starter only increases the chance of having a high-level monster in your hand, whereas this one guarantees that your first 3 coin tosses are always going to be heads, so long as you have multiple different cards with coin toss effects. Okay, again, interesting. We saw Light Barrier. There's Arcana Swap. At the beginning of the duel, shuffle any number of Arcana Force monsters from your hand into the deck, then draw that same number of cards. Alright, that's not bad, so you could send back your higher level Arcanas to try and get some lower ones if you don't have them. Also a good skill. Also a good skill. And it looks like that's his last unique skill. So he has, looks like 5 unique skills, and then he gets other stuff, so like Balance, Draw Sense High Level, Draw Sense Light, Spell Trap. Oh, he actually gets Heavy Starter, Life Run Boost Alpha Light. He gets Restart! Oh, oh, Yubel has Restart. Why does my Yubel have... Was it not Restart that I was thinking of? Oh, no. I remember what it was. Sorry. I got excited because for some reason I was thinking that no character in GX gets restart. I was half right. Characters in GX can get restart. It's that no character in GX gets restart by level up. And considering that's often a skill that is used on farming decks, that tends to make using farming things in the GX duel world a little bit more of a pain in the butt, but I got excited over nothing. You don't get it by level up, so screw you, creepy Sartorius dude. But anyway, quick run over in my head. Yeah, I think that's pretty much everything to the Sartorius unlock event. So, very quick farm, very odd deck, interesting cards. So, I would have been cool if Sartorius waited several more months. I personally would have minded maybe another 5Ds character, just because there's only, like, what, 7 right now? But, you know, whatever. I'm happy with the event. It's nice. Main thing that I'm hoping Konami takes away from this event is this meter to the special version of the event duelist. I hope that they keep doing that, because I like having that level of control. I don't like waiting for randomness. But, that's all I'm going to say, because I'm rambling. It's almost 3 and I need to go to bed. So, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all had a great time, and I hope you all have a great day. And I will see you all in the next one.